Hey guys, welcome back to another one of my videos. Before I get started, I just want to preface this and mention Peanut. Okay. Here's Peen. Okay, before I get started, I wanted to apologize. I know that I haven't been the best at keeping a schedule for uploading. And lucky for me, my computer completely croaked this week. And so I had to start from scratch, or I'm hoping that everything works out. So I'm not exactly sure when this video will be posted. I just know that it's probably going to be late, and I'm really sorry about that, but thank you for sticking around. Anyways, we're doing something a little bit different. Instead of making a spooky and or nerdy cake sculpture, we're going to do something cute. Aww. So it's my nephew's 4th birthday this weekend, so he's a little tot. And my brother just told me that he discovered Totoro. Yes, that Totoro. Studio Ghibli icon. Everybody knows and loves him. My nephew has been running off of the fumes of Pixar's Cars for the past 2 years. Like, that's the only thing he will ever talk about, which is fine. I love Cars, but I'm glad he's into Totoro now because that's just a little bit easier for me to sculpt and replicate. Rather than do like an actual Totoro, I thought I'd do a traditional layer cake and then make it look like a tree stump that's then decorated with these Totoro cake toppers, some mushrooms, some greenery, and so on. You've probably seen these tree stump cakes on Pinterest. They're everywhere, everyone makes them, and I've been wanting to make one myself forever. So it seems simple enough. I thought I'd use just a traditional chocolate cake recipe with chocolate frosting. It's actually going to be a 6-inch cake, which is kind of small compared to the standard 9-inch, and that's because his birthday coincides pretty closely with my mom's birthday, so we'll be celebrating them together. I thought he could have his own fun little cute cake, and then all the not at all boring adults can split the grown-up cake. Anyways, enough chatting, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I would greatly appreciate it if you join me along on this cake food making journey. All right, let's make the cake. Unlike my usual creature cakes, I did not need to sketch anything out before I got started. Because it was a tree stump, there's no actual carving involved. Whatever carved looking details is all in the frosting and not the actual cake. And like I had mentioned, I'm not going to be actually sculpting a Totoro. I will be using little figurines, and this is because I want him to have like toys to play with. This is a chocolate cake recipe I had gotten off of Sally's Baking Addiction, and I can confidently say that whatever I've baked from that website, which isn't a lot, granted, but whatever I've baked has always turned out super delicious. Like when people compliment me on my baked goods, especially cakes, it's usually because of this website. This was my first time using cake flour. Usually I use boxed cake mix for my creature cakes, but I wanted this cake to actually taste good. Here I am preparing my pans. This is a task that I find simultaneously somewhat annoying to do, but also satisfying, maybe because it's such a technical step. What's so exciting about cutting out bits of paper to line your pans, but brushing down the oil and having everything set up nicely is super satisfying. This is where I got a little nervous. When I was pouring the cake batter, I realized how watery it was. If you've used cake mix from a box, you know it doesn't come out too liquidy, and this was very liquidy, almost like French hot chocolate, if you've ever had that. So I was a little hesitant when I was putting them in, but I soldiered on and decided to start my chocolate buttercream. Honey grams. So these were used to make fake moss. I found this tip online where you grind them up super fine into like a sand-like consistency and then mix in some green food coloring so that it like colors the sand throughout, and then pile that onto the cake after it's done, and it's supposed to give like a really mossy look. I didn't include it in the video, but I tried using gel food coloring at first and it just disappeared. Like it turned into like a lump and it disappeared into the sand. So if you're going to do this, I highly suggest using regular non-gel food coloring and mix it in with a little bit of water and then mixing it into your graham cracker crumbs. Next up was making some modeling chocolate. I used white candy melts. I have a lot of leftover modeling chocolate from my projects before, but I needed to have some regular white modeling chocolate to use as well. I thought I'd use it as the base of my mushrooms. And the cakes came out great. They were super moist, which probably explains why the batter was so liquidy. And I probably popped this out of the cake pan wrong, but it came out very soft and I could tell it was going to be super moist. Unfortunately, I couldn't taste test it really. I only got like a little smudge of chocolate cake residue from the cake pan, and I could tell it was pretty good. But I then went ahead and started to assemble and frost this baby up. I had given the cake a rest in the fridge so that it could kind of seize up and be easier to work with, but this cake recipe is still super soft. So even though my buttercream was ready to go, it still led for like all the cake sponge to kind of disintegrate while I was putting the frosting on, which is like so annoying to deal with. But it just meant that I had to work super slowly when it came to frosting the outsides. I will say I wasn't too stressed about it though, because I knew like whatever crumb coat I was putting on would be completely covered with all the tree stump frosting details I would go in with later. This is round 2 of coating the cake, so you can see it looks like an absolute hot mess, but again, I know that this will all be covered. I'm just going slowly, layer by layer. The top of the tree stump I wanted lighter. I realized that when I started to put down chocolate buttercream, that's not the look that I needed to do. So I went in afterwards with a white buttercream just so that it has a clean slate, or somewhat clean slate, to work with. And after that set, I took it out of the fridge and I went in with a tree stump color, well, like the middle wood part of the tree color. So it's kind of like a very light beige compared to the chocolate buttercream I would be using for the bark. Since it was only the inner wood part, I only needed to cover the very top of the cake and then go in later with like these wood tree ring details. This is like a Totoro figure stacking set. I bought it off of Amazon. It wasn't the cheapest, but that just meant that the quality was actually really great. Like, I think this is like legitimate Studio Ghibli figurines and merchandise. I was pretty happy with how everything looked, and I wanted to make sure that everything was like non-toxic because it's going on top of the cake. I did see people use these for cake toppers a lot, but I did see that someone did not recommend putting them into an aquarium. So just be mindful when you're buying these if you had any interest in putting them into a fish tank. But yeah, I thought the set was super cute. It even came with suit sprites and acorns and mushrooms. It was just a really cute set all around, and I wish I had my own. The white modeling chocolate is all set, and I brought out the other colors I had used for my previous cake, which was the Balrog. If you haven't seen it, please do check it out. I will leave the link somewhere in this video. So the modeling chocolate I had stored in just a dark, somewhat cool space. It's been super hot in LA. This was like during the heat wave, and it was pretty brutal, but the chocolate actually held up really nicely. It looks like I'm kind of struggling to pull it apart, but really it just takes a little warmth from your hands for it to become fully moldable again, and it was just like new. So with the red, I make the mushroom caps. With the white I had just made, I'll be making like the underside of the mushroom caps as well as the mushroom stems. I decided to actually do a second type of mushroom. I don't know what these are, but they look like little shelves that go into the tree trunk. They kind of grow in layers going up, and it gives for a very like woodsy, naturey feel rather than like your regular toadstools or just having your regular toadstools. I thought it'd be a really cute detail to use. I messed around with some tools, but really the palette knife was the easiest way to make those mushroom like gills or frills or whatever you call them. But yeah, I thought they came out great. After the toadstools had cooled in the fridge a bit, I then went ahead and started applying those little white spots that you see on their caps. I didn't want them to look super cartoony like they're from Super Mario, especially because I had planned to use different mushrooms as well and moss, so I kind of wanted a little bit more of a natural look. Then came the bark. So I had filled a piping bag with the chocolate buttercream I had made and very slowly and very awkwardly piped it onto the sides of my cake. This is the first time I've ever piped onto the side of a cake. And looking back now, I realize I should have waited for this buttercream to warm up a bit because it was pretty hard to use from the start. And I probably should have piped on my crumb coat because it would have been a lot easier to handle. I'm just learning as I go. I also realized I didn't have enough chocolate buttercream because I used a lot of it in my crumb coat, that when I had piped on the bark, there was some spaces left. So I went in with a palette knife and kind of smudged everything up, which might have been scary, but I think it gave it more of a realistic look in the end anyways. And then of course I did like that tree knot where it looks a little bit swirly to give some interest to look at the cake and to kind of break up the bark. Finally, it was the fun part where I got to actually assemble the whole guy together. Sorry if it gets a bit blurry, but I made sure to wipe off all the little figures and run them under water just to make sure that they're clean going onto the cake. Who knows what they do at the factory with these, but the cake is going to be eaten and I want to keep it clean. I didn't really have like a master plan with how these guys were going to sit on top of the cake. I just winged it as I went. I will say to make them stack and stay, I did use chocolate buttercream to work sort of like a glue for the figurines so I could get like the little white baby Totoro sitting on top of the plastic mushroom. After all the plastic toppers were done, I then went in with all my little sculpted mushrooms. So you can see what I meant by like the little mushroom, the yellow mushroom shelves that kind of stack as they go up. Here's that moss. I apologize. I'm sure it's super frustrating to look at me try to apply this stuff. And looking back, I probably should have applied it before I put in all the mushroom caps. But whatever mess I made, I just kind of squished underneath the tree stump. Hey, let's just pretend it's moss growing at the base of the tree stump. So it works out. And the cake is done. Apologies, I only have phone footage, but this is the completed cake, and I think it came out super cute. Sorry, I don't have any footage of me actually eating the cake. It was mostly just for my nephew to enjoy, so I didn't want to cut into it or anything before I gave it to him. But yeah, that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!